Good evening. I'm Alan Joines, Mayor of Winston-Salem. It's my honor to call to order this September 19th meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council and ask the city clerk to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Mundy.
Present.
Councilmember Scipio.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Here.
Councilmember Burke.
Here.
Thank you very much. Would you please join the city council and me in a moment of silence? Thank you. And would you join the city council and me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I recognize our Sergeant at Arms tonight. It's Lieutenant Kevin Burns. Lieutenant, thank you for being with us tonight. Tonight's agenda of the City Council is comprised of two parts, the consent agenda and the general agenda. It's always the practice of this council to take the consent agenda as the first order of business. Items on this agenda have been unanimously recommended by a committee of the City Council or are being submitted in accordance with established city procedure. There'll be no discussion of the items on this agenda unless a council member so requests that an item be removed. If an item is not removed individually, all the other items will be considered with one vote. The meeting is being televised tonight live on TV 13, and it will be replayed on Tuesday at 9 a.m. and again at Wednesday at 9 p.m. Of course, citizens can always get copies of our agenda as well as videos of previous meetings by going to the city's website and just click on the Watch Meetings Online option. Customers, are there any items you wish to pull from the consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes, please.
C20 and C22, please.
All right. Entertain a motion for the balance.
Move for approval of the balance of the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the rest of the consent agenda. All those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. Thank you. That is unanimous. We'll now go to item C20.
Item C20, consideration of items relating to WinstonNet and Forsyth County Digital Equity Committee pilot program, recommended by Finance Committee.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. I think it's important anytime we have an opportunity that the public is watching and for the audience as well. This is one of those items that I think we need to give a short review of.
Yes,
because of
ma'am.
its importance.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of the City Council.
Good evening.
This item is related, it's utilizing the American Rescue Plan Act funds that the city received. We will be partnering with WinstonNet, utilizing $2 million of the Digital Divide funds that were set aside in the framework to create and upgrade and build out the Martin Luther King Jr. Community Center with various technology equipment, including a computer, art and music lab, smart boards, that sort of thing. We'll also be providing training for digital literacy, internet use, job seeker training, those sorts of issues. And then we will also be providing at least 1,250 of our residents with internet-ready devices. With some training as well. So I have Tom Kay, the city CIO, is here, Tom Kareska, and he can answer any specific questions you may have, but that's a general overview of what this program would be.
One of the things, thank you, Ms. Martin, that we heard and from others is that the equipment that will be given out, is it for ownership or is it we take it back once you go through whatever the program is?
I'll let Mr. Kareska give more details on that
Thank you.
information.
Mr. Kareska.
Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, Member of Council, Tom Kruska, CIO and Director of the IT Department. The answer to your question is, yeah, the equipment that we'll hand out, at least 1,250 devices, and every individual that receives one will have to go through a minimum training, and once they complete that, that will be their device to keep.
Thank you. I move for approval of item C20.
Second.
Thank you. Motion second. Any discussion? None. All those in favor, please vote yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That is unanimous. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Item C22.
Item C22, resolution amending Articles 2 and 3 of the City of Winston-Salem's Personnel Resolution, authorizing the city manager to offer competitive market adjustments, permitting adjusted seniority for newly hired employees, and authorizing in-service vacation payouts for city employees. Recommended by Community Development, Housing, and General Government Committee.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Dr. Barnett, would you give a short synopsis of what this is and the why, as to why we're having to make these amendments to our employee policy when it comes to hiring? This is not the first one. This is, I told you the other night, I think you're batting 100 right now. But to let the citizens know that we are doing everything we can to attract people to work for the city, but everybody else is too. And so, again, it's competition. So thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of the council. The item that you have before you is our latest attempt to remain competitive in an ever-changing workforce. What we're dealing with right now, as you all know, we have a shortage of workers. We have, I think at this point, over about 400 vacancies, but we continue to get those positions posted. In order for us to remain competitive, and in order for us to remain competitive in keeping our employees from going other places, the item that you've got before you, the first part of it amends Article 2 of the city's personnel resolution. What that does is it permits the city manager to make a counter offer to a bona fide offer of employment that a city employee receives. In doing that, it allows the city manager to go up to 5% above the stated offer from a competitor. The other part of this is an amendment to Article 3, which deals with our compensation as well as our benefits. It changes and allows us to do what's called adjusted seniority. So under this item, it will allow for the city manager to offer adjusted seniority to an employee coming with service in the North Carolina Local Governmental Employees Retirement System or in the North Carolina State Employees Retirement System. What that'll do is to allow that employee to come in and instead of earning with 20 years in the system and they're earning, at less than a year of service in terms of vacation, it allows us to match where they are in that state retirement system. And then the final item that's here is it allows for in-service vacation payouts to our employees. So what that'll do is it'll allow up to 80 hours annually for an employee to receive a payout while in active service of their vacation time.
Thank you. I think this is very important. Like I said, that a lot of municipality governments, businesses, everybody has had to rethink the world of work, the new world of work, and coming up with innovative ways or new out-of-the-box ways to attract talent and workers to the city. We got to throw everything but the kitchen sink at it because our citizens expect us to keep the service coming by any means necessary. So again, thank you and your staff and department for working on this and bringing it to general government.
Thank you for your
With that, Mayor, I move for approval.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion of this item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. Thank you. That is unanimous. The City Council will now go to the general agenda, which is comprised of the following items. An item related to a street closing, an item regarding revising the ward boundaries of the City of Winston-Salem, an item related to approving the sale of city-owned land, as well as the public comment period. The street closing and the revising of the ward boundaries are listed as public hearings. When these public hearings are called, persons in the council chamber will be given an opportunity to speak, at which time we would ask that you give your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. If no one wishes to speak, I'll close the public hearing and the council will consider the item. The public comment period, of course, is a time set aside for citizens to voice their opinions on matters that are germane to city government. And again, when this public comment period is called, each speaker will be given 3 minutes, and the comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. Ms. Kenny, would you read the first item, please?
Item G1, public hearing on a petition to close and abandon a portion of Torrance Drive and notice to all persons interested in the closing thereof.
Thank you. Before we move forward with this, Councilmember McIntosh needs to be excused on this particular item, so I'd entertain a motion to excuse Councilmember McIntosh.
I move that we excuse Councilmember McIntosh from item G1.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor of excusing Councilmember McIntosh from participating in this item, please indicate by voting yes. And anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. You're excused from this, Councilmember McIntosh. This is a public hearing to close and abandon a portion of Torrance Drive. Is anyone in council chamber who would like to be heard on this proposed street closing? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Since Councilmember McIntosh is chairman of the Public Works Committee and the council member from that ward, I'm going to recognize the vice chairman, Councilmember Burke, for a motion, if I could, please.
I move for approval of item G1.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please vote, indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous with Councilmember McIntosh being excused from voting. Thank you very much. Item G2.
Item G2, public hearing on resolution to revise the ward boundaries of the city of Winston-Salem as a result of the 2020 census.
Thank you. Assistant City Manager King, if you would, kind of go through basically the procedure and policies that we followed in coming to this point here. So, Mr. King.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. So I'll kind of start from the beginning and walk through this. So about late summer last year, we received our results back from the 2020 census. And when we got those back, we saw that we know that anytime any of our wards, any one of them is out of balance by more than plus or minus 5%, we have to redraw the districts. And so in our case, the South Ward was out of whack by 6.5%. So we're legally required to redraw our ward boundaries. So we got that information. We came to the General Government Committee in November of 2021, and we shared the metrics that would guide our process for the ward redistricting. And I'll summarize those briefly. We're going to keep council members in their existing wards. We were going to preserve the core of existing wards and work around the edges to make any changes needed. We had a goal of having 2% or less population deviation across our wards. We wanted to have a ward balance reflective of the city's demographic diversity. We didn't want to split census blocks, and we wanted to use logical boundaries for our ward boundaries moving forward. So we went to work throughout the winter and the spring of 2022 trying to put together a draft map that achieved those goals. And we came back to the General Government Committee in June of this year to share a draft map. And what we brought back was a draft map that achieved those metrics that I just shared with you. And we went a little bit further than that. As I shared, our goal was to come up with a map of 2% or less deviation across wards. We brought you back a map that was 1% or less deviation across wards. I think 0.8% was our largest deviation, which is about 250-ish people. So that's really important because that helps to really more fully achieve the one voice, one vote principle, which is really at the core of this process. At that time, we also shared with you an outreach process for how we were going to solicit public comment moving forward. So after that, we sent out a news release on August 10th to make folks aware of that. Our CityLink on hold message was changed on August 10th to make folks aware of that for anybody using CityLink. We created a dedicated website, basically a clearinghouse for information about the ward redistricting process, and we had it linked on the main page of the city's website. It's still there today. We held 4 public drop-in sessions on August 17th, 24th, 29th, and 31st throughout the city to give folks an opportunity to come out and give comment in person. We've been advertising on Winston-Salem TV, TV 13. And additionally, our marketing department has created 82 posts that have been spread across our social media platforms, so Twitter, Facebook, and Nextdoor. In addition, I did a radio interview with WSSU back in the summer on this. And our friends at the Winston-Salem Journal, I believe, ran a front page article on this on July 19th. So we've had a fair amount of coverage out there in the public domain on this. And one of the things we shared was our estimated goal as we started this process was to come back September or October, depending on how things shook out. So we're here in front of you on September 19th to discuss this matter. Included in your agenda materials, you've got the overall revised city ward map. You've got individual maps for each ward. and you've gotten all the public comments we have received in writing since our process began. I know you received some emails that came in today, so I believe you have those as well. And last, I just want to call attention to one thing that's in the resolution you have in your information, in your agenda materials. It proposes an effective date of July 1, 2023. So we did reach out to the School of Government to share our resolution with them to make sure that what we were proposing seemed correct. And they were good with what we had drafted, but they did offer that suggestion of a July 1, 2023 effective date. And I would recognize Attorney Carmen to talk a little bit about that conversation and the reason why.
Ms. Carmen?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. When I spoke with the School of Government, the thought in terms of making the effective date July 1st of 2023 is that you want to make it effective closer to the filing period for the next election to minimize any issues that may occur in the event of a vacancy in the current council. God forbid someone passes away or something happens. And so that would minimize issues if you make the effective date closer to the filing deadline, which is in December of 2023. And the other thing, which I think is also important, it will allow for the voters who elected the council members of each ward to continue with that council member for a longer period of time as their representative.
Mr. King, anybody have questions for Mr. King? Good. Thank you very much, Mr. King. This is a public hearing. We do have some folks who have signed up to be heard. And again, if you give your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. First person is Philip Carter.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Pro Tem Adams, council members. Philip Carter, 965 Mount Zion Place, Apartment K, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I come before you today to say that every 4 years, myself and the citizenry are under the illusion that we're electing representatives, but it appears at times that we're only elected officials, not people that represent us because they don't hear from us. So as it was with this deployment of the realignment, 4 venues, an hour and a half. Just imagine if 169,000 voting citizens in Winston-Salem would have went to those meetings. There wouldn't have been enough time to even give adequate input. But as it is, to my knowledge, only 6 people was at the one in the South Edge Recreation Center. 6. I didn't know nothing about it until here recently. And I'm involved in politics. I didn't get one of those little cards you send in the mail. I didn't get a call from a liaison. You know, I just happened to hear about it because I kind of been out of the loop. But not only myself, many others. And I guess if Mr. King was to tell you how many comments he had, you would see it is almost infinitesimal based on the amount of registered voters in this city. So tonight, I, along with others, we ask that, being that you won't be up for election until 2024, primary would be in the middle somewhere around March of 2024, postpone this thing as long as you can, that there might be adequate, zealous attempt in informing the citizens to whereby they can make conscious decisions to ask what they might like to see their wards look like. That's what I ask of you, and that's what I believe the citizens that are present and absent as well would want. Thank you.
Thank you. Janita Johnson.
Can you hear me through this? If not, I can take it on. You're
be
good?
good if you take it off.
Okay. I'm going to read this to try to keep in time. As community and neighborhood advocates from our respective wards, the Coalition for Accountability and Transparency finds a lackluster attempt at public engagement for the current ward realignment process by the City of Winston-Salem. Now, since the need for the ward realignment comes around every 10 years because of the census, we think that the city should be highly engaged in trying to educate the citizens about the why, what, and methodology being used to make the current proposed city alignments and the changes in the city's respective wards. Instead, the city has had 4 anemic drop-ins at the recreation centers in August, and the majority of the city residents at that time were, of course, on vacation or doing other summer pursuits at that time. Of course, also there's primary means. They were publicizing on sessions on being online and on social media, which majority of our community is not. So we need to find another way to do that. From the information we've received, it appears that less than 20 citizens or residents came to these 4 drop-in sessions, and the planning department has received only 4 written public comments concerning their surveys. Planning staff admitted that most of the residents coming to these drop-ins did not have any questions, and that's probably because they did not have any information prior to this on what to ask. And also, it's extremely difficult for them to look at the color maps to try to find out how those wards merge. Our Coalition for Accountability and Transparency is very concerned about this long-term issue, also about the gentrification of our wards. And we think that because the wards have been gerrymandered before, that trying to do this particular issue is going to cause more problems. So we're not saying that the city didn't do its job, but we're just saying that they could do better with this. And we think that the citizens need to have more information. We need more time. Thank you.
Eunice Campbell.
Eunice Campbell, 5743 Antietam Drive. Good afternoon, City Council, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem Adams. I will continue with the reading. As such, our Coalition for Accountability and Transparency is asking the City Council, 1, to postpone the G2-22-0559 public hearing and City Council decision-making on the current ward realignment proposals as noted. 2, to display over the next 6 months in each ward each ward's public library and recreation centers, the proposed ward alignment maps along with proposed posters explaining the purpose of ward alignment and the changes proposed for each respective ward. And during the next 6 months, continue to publicize online and via social media where city residents can find, review, and study their proposed ward alignment map changes. Also include a ward alignment public education leaflet in one of the city utility bill mailings during the time frame. And number 3, to have the planning staff conduct a series of public education meetings in a PowerPoint presentation format for each ward regarding their proposed ward realignment changes, where planning staff will explain the purpose and process of ward alignment, the why, what, and methodology used, and answer specific questions on each specific ward alignment map from city residents attending each meeting during this 6-month time frame. Number 4, to have the planning staff and city council seriously review and consider any proposed changes to the respective ward alignment proposals brought to light by the above improved city education and engagement proposal, and then make any necessary changes to the ward realignment maps. And 5, to have the final ward realignment map proposals brought back before the City Council for its public hearing and final City Council decision-making in late spring, early summer of 2023. Thank you in advance for your consideration in postponing and improving the education and engagement of city residents regarding this public hearing. Thank you.
Caroline Highsmith.
Hello, I'm Carolyn Highsmith, 3335 Anderson Drive, and I live in the South Ward. And I want to concur with my colleagues. I was here in 2020 with the same issue of not having enough public participation. In 2010, there had been absolutely no public participation from the time it left committee to the city council. This year, I do commend the planning staff and the city for its initial attempts at public participation and engagement, but it's not enough, as we have stated. And I think with the deadline that Ms. Carmen has noted from the for July 1, 2023, there's plenty of time to put in our plan or a similar plan by the city council. The other issue is the most public comments are coming out of the South Ward and its realignment issues. I think there are different ways to address the imbalance of the South Ward with its neighboring Southeast and Southwest Ward, but we need to have a community meeting with planning staff and our city council members, especially Mr. Larson and Mr. Taylor, to address those issues before the city council in general comes back and decides what's the best plan, the best ward realignment plan. So I ask you to seriously consider our proposal for delaying your decision-making tonight about the ward realignment plan, and that you will allow us more and more effective public engagement and discussion with the proposal we have outlined, which is public meetings, putting ward maps in all the libraries and recreation centers, and then coming back and having an updated public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the council chamber who wishes to be heard on the proposed ward realignment? All right, seeing no one, I'll declare this public hearing closed. I recognize our Mayor Pro Tem Adams.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to go ahead and make the motion so we can have some discussion. I move for approval of item G2, the resolution to revise the ward boundaries of the city of Winston-Salem as a result of the 2020 census, the ward realignment plan, and map included with the agenda items.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I just want to say that again, I was around for the 2010 census. And I recognized even then that, to me, I know how important the census is. And the first meeting I attended, getting the city manager and the city manager of the county, because the county really runs the process. The city is partners with the county. And we started doing this, the first time we met for the 2020 was in 2018. At the Enterprise Center, and it had to be 60, 70, if not 100 people at that meeting. Church leaders, community leaders, business leaders, school, you name it, they were there. And the state was doing a presentation as well as planning in the county to get everybody to understand how important, again, the census is, 2020. I did numerous commercials, videos, interviews, whatever you want to call it. I was going to meetings all over the country to hopefully get our city and county to get excited about the census because the world had changed. When the census got cut off early, that surprised everybody in government across the country. And the fact that even at every event I went to, I was telling people to take their phones out. You need to be counted. If we don't get an accurate count, we're going to lose billions of dollars over the next 10 years. Billions for our community in healthcare, food stamps, education, you name it, streets, roads. And basically that's what we did. We didn't get counted right. So I'm looking at this like, if you look at the maps, and I hope everybody at least here has looked at the ward maps. If you go back and even look at 2010, there is no big difference. We are, as they say, we are basically has to do what the General Assembly tells us to do. Everybody think we run our own show, but we don't. Everybody has to follow the same rules. And some of the things that people that called me or whatever, saying that this is an attempt to gentrify, displace, and all of that stuff, it is not true. It is not true. We had meetings in the communities, no different than what we did in 2010. I understand the need for people wanting to hear more, but it's the same message that was in 2010, the same message from 2000. And even in 2010, people didn't show up because I was at all the meetings. They didn't show up. Because at the end of the day, when we have to balance these wards, it's up to staff to do it with science and data. And the changes that are being made was because the South Ward grew. That's the real deal. The ward that grows the biggest is the one that the realignment has to start. In 2010, it started in the North Ward. I didn't grow, but the ward beside me needed people to satisfy the general statute. If you look at the maps that are out there online, the maps in our agenda package, which is online, we probably, Mr. King, would you come up, please? We probably have shifted to each ward or out 250. What's the max number? Because the South Ward grew.
You know, I was sitting there getting ready for that because I thought it was going to come up. I don't have a precise number for you, Mayor Pro Tem Adams. There are some areas I would say probably around like the Kingstree area, maybe have about 1,500-ish residents in there. Up along the Renolda Road area, Crosland, you probably got several hundred in there. And then you've probably got some other pockets kind of in between, but that's kind of a ballpark off the top of my head.
Well, that's what the maps show. It's not like you got this big transition of people, this big green something that went to another ward or we brought them in. We can't annex, that's done. You can never annex, people have to ask to be annexed. But I just want people to know a lot of work went into this process. I can tell you a lot of work with federal officials, leaders, state, county, and staff for the county and the city, the hospitals, education. I went to every meeting that was held for the census. And this is the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Larson, do you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. South Ward has been a very successful growth area for the last 10 years. There's no good deed goes unpunished, I suppose. When I found out that they were going to cut a pound of my flesh out and take part of my ward away to balance it out, that was not a happy thing to do. But you have to look at generally what the obligation for city government is, and that is equal man, equal vote. And when you have a disrepresentation, my people are not getting the same amount of coverage, for example, that say somebody else in the neighboring wards would get. So in looking at it, you don't have a lot of choice. You have to be adjacent to a ward that needs additional people. It's not geographical area. It's a matter of where the people are. And in this particular case, the people are on the borderline with the Southeast Ward with Councilmember Taylor's. The particular area that we're looking at, of course, is the Kingstree area, which actually has some history of being divided between the two wards anyway. And I know Mr. Taylor, Councilmember Taylor, is attentive to neighborhood concerns. He's voted on matters dealing with neighborhoods before. I have full confidence in his ability to represent the constituents that are being transferred over to him. I would simply say that we have some time to make the transition smoothly, and I'm sure we will make it that way. But I can't disagree with the idea that we have to equalize the number of people in each of the wards to properly represent the councilmen, the population, the constituencies in this city. And this is a process. Maybe in the next census, so some people get transferred back to the South Ward. But for right now, the South Ward is still strong and is still growing. And I'm full optimistic that we will get our job done down there that we need to get done. So with that, Mayor, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Councilmember Scipio.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and colleagues. Sometimes we take a lot of time to be thoughtful about the things we do,
Sometimes we allow our staff to do a lot of work, and then we endorse it. But what we don't always take enough time with is giving the public the education they need to understand what's really happening. And it may not be prudent at this time for us to say we can take 6 months, but I think we should take time. We didn't get a lot of turnout. I went to mine. We didn't get very many for the East Ward. It could have been a factor that people didn't hear about it, or the people weren't interested. But I would like to move that we continue this item and give our staff time to have another effort to get the community educated about the process to the point that we can show them what we were shown. It would be very beneficial. And so I would like to move that we continue this item until next month, October the 17th, and give the staff time, if that's adequate, to do some more education with the community and to answer their questions.
So Councilman Scipio offers a substitute motion to continue this item to October 17th of this year. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Councilmember Larson seconds that. So we will vote on the substitute motion, which is to continue to October 17th. All those in favor of the motion would vote yes, and a yes vote would be to continue this item. A no vote would be to not continue it. So the motion fails, a vote of 6-2. We're now back to the original motion, which is to approve this. All those in favor.
Mayor, I'd like
Councilmember
to offer
Scipio.
another motion, please.
Councilmember Scipio offers another substitute motion.
All right. I'd like to make another motion that we approve, to approve item G2, the resolution to revise the ward boundaries of the city of Winston-Salem as a result of the 2020 census, the ward realignment plan and map included with the agenda item, except for census blocks 1014, 1015, and 1016, which shall remain in the East Ward.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'd like some discuss. I'll second it because I'd like to understand what this is about.
Motion is seconded to this. Mr. King, can you describe what this means?
Yeah, Mayor, so you heard census block 1014, 1015, and 1016. This map in front of you shows you those 3 census blocks. So this is on the west side of, can you guys see that?
No.
It's not on our
It's
little
not on the
screen.
screen.
There it is.
Yes.
Okay, everybody can see now?
Yep.
Okay. So again, this is census block 1014, 1015, and 1016. It's on the west side of Martin Luther King Jr. Drive. Research Parkway kind of runs through the middle of it. So census block 1014, that's your northernmost block. That's Civitan Park. Census block 1015 is Research Parkway. And census block 1016 is Bowman Gray Stadium. And a very small portion of Diggs Boulevard, Golson Avenue, and I believe that's Fitch Street. There are some residents in there with a total population of 86 folks within census block 1016. And what Councilmember Scipio's substitute motion contemplates, the draft map that you have before you would take these 3 census blocks and place them in the Southeast Ward. Councilmember Scipio's substitute motion would retain them in the East Ward if approved.
Thank you, Mr. King. Is there any other discussion or questions on this one? Councilmember Larson?
Is it currently in the East Ward? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes,
And the total population is 86 people?
correct.
It's Bowman Gray Stadium and Civitan Park.
Civitan Park. And what is the difference here between the Southeast Ward and the East Ward as far as population base? Does this really change the dynamics of the percentages we're trying to accomplish?
So again, Councilmember Larson, it's 86 people, and what you see on on that spreadsheet there in the bottom basically reflects if council wanted to adopt this, that's what the final tally would be. So I think, I'm just kind of going off memory right now, but I think in the staff recommended version, the Southeast Ward is at 0.8% deviation. I believe it's minus 251, so it would lose another 86 folks. Those would go to the East Ward. So those two yellow rows right there reflect the adjusted columns if this were to be adopted.
So to clarify, that would make the deviation
Mr.
larger?
Mundy. Mr. Larson's got.
Yeah.
Mr. Larson, are you
Sorry,
finished?
No comment at this time. I'm just trying to
All
sort
right,
through
Councilmember
it.
Mundy.
Just for clarification, does that mean the deviation gets larger between
does.
those two wards? Okay, thank you.
All right, we do have a substitute motion to include these 3 census tracts keep them in the East Ward. So a vote of yes would be to keep these 3 census tracts in the East Ward. A vote no would be to allow them to move as in terms of the original publication. So all those in favor of the substitute motion would vote yes. And that motion fails on a vote of 6-2 as well. And now we're back to the, 5-2. Got to be 6-2, somebody can't abstain on this.
I don't
see
think
that.
mine was recorded.
Yours was recorded.
I said I don't think mine was
Okay.
recorded.
What was your vote?
It was a vote no.
Okay, so that it was 6-2 to fail. Now we're back to the original motion of Mayor Pro Tem Adams to approve the recommendation from staff. All those in favor of the original recommendation, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed to it would vote no. And that motion passes a vote of 7-1, so the realignment is approved. Thank you, council members. Mayor
Mayor,
Pro Tem.
may I ask the staff and the city manager and Mr. King and your department, go ahead and do whatever we need to do to put the information out there as to how this was done, how it's always been done, that nothing has changed. But put it at a level that everybody gets it, that we're not talking, again, moving 10,000 people or whatever out of a ward, because a ward can only have 30,000 now. It's not always been that way because we've grown a little bit over the 10 years, so that we can do that. And we'll be willing to listen to the feedback. But again, like I said, this process has been the same process for decades.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Mayor?
Mayor Councilmember Mundy.
Just one comment would not have affected the vote, but I read all the comments that were sent in, and several people did make the point that they don't follow the geographical lines. I know we have talked internally about changing from directional wards to numbered wards. This may be a good time as we do this rezoning to really revisit that, see what it means and how we would go about doing that, so we're making those changes at the same time.
Good point, Mr. Mundy. Councilmember Larson.
Yes, could I ask staff to particularly pay attention to the blocks of people that have moved from one ward to another, and perhaps send them a postcard or some notification that their ward is now different? And so this is a preliminary for election purposes, get their minds around what's happening here.
So, Councilmember Larson, I believe the plan is to send a postcard to all address points in the city of Winston-Salem, whether you've moved wards or not, to show who your council member is and who your community assistance liaison is, include that contact information.
Okay.
So once we get this finalized, every resident in Winston-Salem will receive a postcard from the city.
Thank you.
That's correct.
Mayor, Mr. King, before you take your seat, out of the 8 wards, how many are now majority minority?
I believe it's 5.
5 out of 8.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item G3.
Item G3, resolution approving the sale of city-owned land by private sale to the art-based school supporting organization.
Councilmember Scipio, I believe, needs to continue this item.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I would like to move to continue item G3, the resolution approving the sale of city-owned property by private sale to the arts-based school supporting organization to the City Council's meeting on October 17th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Councilmember Scipio can make comments on this?
Yes. You never expect to have so much dissension over something that has the possibility to be so good for a neighborhood. However, there has been a lot of disinformation that has been released over the last several days. Some of it is absolutely incorrect. There's no attempt to rename Happy Hill something else. And so I would like to invite everyone who wants to know about what we want to do with the arts-based school to come to a community meeting on Wednesday, September 28th at 6 p.m. at the Sims Center to get the correct and complete information, not assumptions, nothing about racism. I've been very saddened to see and hear some of the comments that have gone out in social media because we can't have a unified city when people are creating dissension. And it hurts me because I love this city and I went to school in Happy Hill and I know the people who live there. There's so much wonderful things that could happen there, and it has the most unique history of any section of this city for African Americans. So I would like to have a public meeting with anyone who wants to come, and we will reach out to all of the residents that are there now to let them know, because we haven't heard from them. We've heard from other people who may have had a relationship with the community in the past. But I regret that this has happened in this way. And if I have been remiss with any of our residents, I apologize to you right now if I've been remiss. But I certainly operated and have operated with an understanding that the community was in favor of the school, and that seems to be changing. And so we will have an open discussion on next Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
Councilmember Clark?
Yeah, prior to the next month meeting, Mr. King, I'd like to know how many lots are available for building in the greater Happy Hills area, and I would, broken down by the ones the city owns and the one that Halls owns. I've heard anywhere from 50 to 90. So it'd be nice to have a legitimate number. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Adams?
Yes, and again, Mayor, I will stand by what I've said in general government and finance, that I don't support this. You know, I want to be clear. If you go back and look at the tape, look at the meeting, I'm on my soapbox because it was not promised for that. And I have asked staff to go ahead and get the timeline as to when this went down, that we decided to go with the Happy Hill community, that, like I tell people, that site is one of the best sites in the city. The view from up on top of that hill. So my Happy Hill folk, again, I was born on southbound of the railroad track. Y'all can look down on us from the hill. I'm not supporting that. Sorry.
So we have a motion to continue this item to the October 17th meeting. All those in favor of this would be voting yes on this. Anyone opposed to the continuance, vote no. And on the motion, it's tied there, and I'll vote yes to continue this item to give Councilmember an opportunity to speak with her constituents on this. All right, so we'll now go to item G4.
Item G4, public comment period.
Again, this is a time once per month that we invite citizens to speak to the council and me on matters that are germane to city government. And again, limit your comments to 3 minutes and give your name and address for the record. First person signed up is Joanne Allen.
Good evening to everyone, especially the public. As a descendant of family members who fought in the American Revolutionary War, and as an original native of Winston-Salem, whose family members and others helped put the name of Winston-Salem on the world's map, I take offense to a group of individuals who have prospered off the backs of the people they are supposed to represent. I do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office. So help me God. This is the oath that every last one of you all took. You all have destroyed historical Black communities and displaced so many individuals with your policies and procedures that it would take a miracle to clean up your legacy. None of you deserve to be up there representing the people of Winston-Salem. We have a mayor who have made millions off his connections, and we also have city council members who too many times feel that they are above the law as well. I urge the public who's watching and listening tonight to take a good look at your city, because it's on its way to no longer being your city. Most of these elected officials have either sold or given your city away because they could. Progress is good, but it should never be at the expense or degradation of an entire group of people. Please research North Carolina Senate Bill 473. That's North Carolina Senate Bill 473. It's called the Government Transparency Bill, exclusively geared to the local government officials, staff, and personnel effective as of January 1st, 2022. When elected officials aren't doing the will of the people of this city, then we, the people, have a right to hold you accountable. And yes, we do mean exactly that. Your days of catering to your friends and looking the other way while ignoring what the people, the taxpayers, want is over. Don't believe me? Try me.
Richard Miller.
I haven't seen Richard in a long time.
I'm back.
Yeah.
Hello, friends, fellow citizens. Richard Miller, 704 North Trade Street. For those of you who know me, I hadn't seen you in a while, and it's nice to see you. Those who are rookies, since I've been here, welcome. I'm here to give you something a little bit better tonight. Talk a little bit about the parking situation. I'm sure a lot of folks have made comments about, you've heard a lot about downtown parking. I want to clarify a couple of things that might help with you on this. A lot of folks have a misconception that they're angry about being charged for parking. Well, as somebody who used to own a parking lot down there, I can tell you, as someone who's operated parking, I've had people just come in, just park, and they just get out of their car and they walk on and they pay you no attention. It's kind of like walking in a restaurant, ordering food and walking out not paying. All it is the people that own these lots are just charging for what they should be charging. And I hate to see people get upset about it, but that's just part of the progress of downtown. And I don't think people should be overly concerned. I think we'll get through this. I think we'll gain more parking. Mr. McIntosh and I have talked about the addition of more street parking. Mr. Larson and I have talked about maybe finding some more. Maybe we'll find some more somewhere. One of the things that was brought to my attention was maybe the city could buy or produce another surface lot in the north downtown, maybe the mid downtown area. Anything's possible, but I know that's public dollars. What I would encourage you to do is to not let people get over emotional about it and just because they're paying for parking, that's part of it. You park on somebody's private property, you got to pay for it. Just like in the city deck, you got to pay for it. I know the city deck has been a big help to gaining some parking for events downtown, and I'm glad to be helping provide as much things going on downtown as possible. Those of you, Mr. Mayor, you know I'm a big hat wearer for downtown and support anything that we can do down there. So I encourage a good logical resolution to maybe adding some public parking. I don't know what that answer is going to be, but I think we ought to at least kind of look around and see where we can come up with something. But anyway, it's nice to see everybody again, and thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to hearing from you if I can be of some service. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Richard. Abio Harris.
Good afternoon, council members, honorable mayor, mayor pro tem, city council members. I am the president of the Happy Hill Neighborhood Association. In the Happy Hill community, there is a lack of property ownership since the urban bifurcation of the community beginning in the late 50s, where homes, businesses, and even graves were destroyed. And the history of North Carolina's oldest Black community was lost. When affordable housing is dwindling in Winston-Salem and across the country, the art-based school, presents another plan by the powers that be to take an important asset that is from the community, that is land, through gentrification. We are very concerned of how this was brought up and how it's going to play out. It could have many, many effects. However, I'm also here with the person that came up with this idea, Griff Morgan. So he will also speak if that's okay.
Morgan, if you give your name and address.
Thank you, Ms. Harris, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Adams, members of the council. I spoke to most of you a week ago at the Finance Committee meeting and in support of our proposal to build a program for the arts-based school in conjunction with the University of North Carolina School of the Arts and Winston-Salem University to build what I think would be a dynamic arts youth community program that would work in the afternoons, in the evenings, and on the weekends. It's a program that I support. I'm still very excited about it. At the time I spoke with you, the Happy Hill community had been very generous in welcoming the arts-based school to their neighborhood and to their community, and we thought supported our expansion of the school in this arts-based program. I misunderstood my communication with that community. I was moving forward and looking at them, welcoming them and supporting us, and thinking that they also understood we were moving forward on getting some land. They did not share that understanding, and I did not communicate that clearly to them. I have apologized to Ms. Harris and the Happy Hill community, and Ms. Harris has asked me to come up here and make sure that my apology is public, and I am doing that today. I am still very excited about the program that we can have. I am glad the board voted to continue the vote on this resolution. It will give the community and the arts-based school time to talk, maybe time to talk with some developers that are interested in that area, and maybe come out with a plan that can meet both the needs of affordable housing and the needs for building something that the City of Arts and Innovation will be proud of for its youth in the afternoons and in the community. So thank you for your time. Thank you for the vote on the continuance, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to work together.
Morgan, would you give your name and address for the record, please?
You know, I didn't do that a week ago, and I got in trouble, so thank you, Mayor Joines. My name is Griff Morgan. I'm at 121 Cascade Avenue, Winston-Salem, 27127.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Is there anyone who else wishes to be heard during the public comment period? Yes. Please give us your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Brian Blue, and I live at 2050 Craig Street in Mr. Mundy's ward. Most of this is for the people, not you guys, because I'm trying to learn to be more disciplined when I talk to you guys. But let's be real, you guys are failing this city. We have a transportation system that could be brought back to life if you only told people how it worked. In cities that are growing, and I'm going to tell you people right now, that this city is not a retirement city. This is the United States of America, and no city in the city of the United States of America is a retirement city. If you keep telling people they're in a retirement city, you make children feel hopeless, and they go out there and commit crimes. You've given these children nothing to do but go out and commit crimes. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of these children taking the brunt of the blame when it's you guys who are not running this city very well. We are at 19% poverty rate. If anybody have done some research, the national level is 11%. That's 9% over the national level. What are you guys doing to fix that? Not much. Not much. We got former council members getting ready to go to jail. And they're not the only ones doing it. Some of you still sit on this dais, and you know you do. Derwin Montgomery should not be the only one going down for crimes that he's not the only ones committing. And I'll stand here and tell you to your face. Our children are failing, and that's because you guys are pocketing money. As a centrist Democrat, I like to ask all the rest of the Democrats on the dais, why do I find myself agreeing with Robert Clark so daggone much? I'm a Democrat, and I agree with him way too much. Way too much. Mr. Mayor, it is time for you to go, and I'll be frank with you. I hope this is the last time you run. We don't feel the same way. And a lot of us don't feel the same way. There's a lot of youth in this city who are not getting helped. And I'm glad that there's an art-based community coming to the East Ward trying to help our citizens in the East Ward. But I can tell you what, I'm glad to hear Annette Scipio, a council member Scipio, apologize for something. A lot of you all need to start apologizing for a lot. It's time for a lot of you to go. You've been on these dais for way too long. Some of you for 20 years. 20 years, way too long, Mr. Mayor.
Is there anyone else like to be heard in the public comment period?
Eunice Campbell, 5743 Antietam Drive. I hadn't planned on speaking twice, but I just need to say that there are a lot of frustrated people in this city, and some articulate it in different ways than others. But the bottom line is there are a lot of frustrated people. It's a lot of things going on, and you just have to, people are looking for reasons. And people, but mostly people are looking for solutions, and they need help. So when we came and asked you to postpone it, we were asking for help for you to explain it to us. Explain it to us. Explain to me why you took 3 tracts out of the East Ward, I guess I should have been more specific, with a population of 86, and just gave it to someone else with no explanation. So if you could explain things a little better, because to me, I'm looking at it, that's a land grab. So why are you giving Bowman Gray to another ward when it was perfectly fine where it's at with only 86 people in it? You actually moved 2, I'm sitting here looking at 2 blocks, population tracts with no people in it. And you constantly said this was about population. But yet you went against that basic principle of moving population, because you had to go by them 2 blocks of 0 to get to the 86 people. So to me, the purpose was to make sure Bowman Gray went into another ward. Why?
Anyone else wish to be heard?
Cynthia Herson, 1200 Willa Davis Drive. I had no plans on speaking today, but after sitting here and listening to everybody, I think you all need to listen to the people because the people matters. And it bugs me. I'm not a native from Winston-Salem. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. But it kills me that you all did not listen to the people when they told y'all. They just needed time. And for you all to vote ahead and say to go ahead with the matter, I think that is a disrespect to the people that elected you all into the office. And I could not hold my peace no longer without saying something.
Anyone else? Seeing no one else, I'll declare the public comment period closed. Councilman Scipio has to be recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Colleagues, public, next Saturday, the East Ward will be kicking off a food drive. It's called Stock the Food Bank. Second Harvest Food Bank is moving to a new facility on Shore Fair Drive, and they need food to fill up that new facility. Several months ago, as I was talking to constituents in the East Ward, particularly the churches, I was asking, what could we do as churches that would benefit the community? And former representative, the late Jocelyn Johnson, suggested that we have a food drive. So in her memory, I would like to encourage anyone who lives, works, plays, or drives through the food bank to donate food and or money between September 24th and 30th. You'll see a flyer that looks like this around the city. It has a QR code, and you can use that QR code to donate funds. The food boxes are all around the ward, specifically in our city government buildings, and I also will say our county government buildings that are in the East Ward, the sheriff, public health, social services, the libraries. So we want everybody to come out and help us stock the food bank. The food bank is a valued service to this community and other counties, providing food during these difficult times for people to have food in their homes. So I'd like to encourage you again to contribute to Stock the Food Bank.
Thank you, Councilmember.
I would like to make a comment on Mr. The parking. Mr. Miller, sorry, it's been so long, I forgot who you were. I'm getting calls from some of my constituents that did not do the parking correct, and you have to, I don't know if it's enter it in your phone or do this, that, and the other, but what they're getting hit with is a $100 late fee. I believe the punishment should fit the crime, and in this case, it doesn't. To miss park and be fined $100, I think it's very unreasonable, and City Attorney, I will talk with you privately about it. But when people abuse the privilege, then the privilege needs to be taken away, and I just think that it's abhorrent that people are ripping people off with a $100 late fee for parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? We're adjourned.